two of our books are coming to an end this year. Well, a couple already have. So Providence of Madness is like a self-contained story about all things Lovecraftian. Tales in Techno Horror is just a horror anthology, right? So it's, I say just, but it's cool little short stories. You know, and they all stand alone. And then we have Electric Black is continuing next year. It's going to be called Electric Black Children of Cain, and we've already been approved for Free Comic Book Day issue 0.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So it'll be a whole story to kick off the new series. Will come out on Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, that's excellent.
And it's written by me and Rich and drawn by us. That will be the only issue that's fully drawn by us is the Free Comic Book Day issue. And we're going to be working with some new artists for the rest of the series.
It's definitely one of my favorites. Like
it's sort of our firebrand, you know. It's like the thing that got us started with Black Caravan was the Electric Black. So
I love the overarching concept. Like you get the best of both worlds. You're getting like an ongoing story, but you're also getting that anthology feel. And I grew up reading a lot of British comics, so I love anthology books.
Yeah,
they're all anthology books.
We have like a 5-year plan for it. 5 years, and then you'll have like sort of a completed
and
you know, home.
Absolutely loved this. This is great. This is
thanks. We actually produced that like 2 years ago.
What I really like about it is the way you've done it is very clever, in the sense that for people who've read the previous Electric Black stuff, it kind of brings things together. But if you've never read Electric Black, there's no obstacle when you pick up that book. Like you're straight into that world. You don't feel like you've missed out on anything. But at the same time, like, you know, for the readers who have been there, it's that bringing together everything.
You get a lot of payoff for it, for sure, because you never knew who you finally figure out who the Yellow Stranger is just by process of elimination of the cult members that are left. You figure out, you know, what the Electric Black's up, you know, where they're going next, sort of, and then you get a full history on like how they all started for the most part.
And I think for a lot of people picking that up as their first exposure to Electric Black, you know, you're giving them the origin, which is what a lot of people expect from a first issue. So it's not until you kind of get to the end and see the ads for the rest of the Electric Black that you go, ooh, there's more. I felt like I was here at the beginning.
So we have a couple of cool things coming up in the next month or so. First off, every store that has done like significant business with us, yourself included, will be getting 10 free copies of the holiday special, which is an 8-page Electric Black story. Do you know what Krampus is? It's the whole story of how Julius Black is actually Krampus.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's just a little 8-page comic book. They're free for shops that have been preferred stores with us. And then we'll be shipping those out all through the holiday season as a thank you to everybody. They will also be included. A copy will be included in every Scout subscription box for the month of November. And then we'll have them next month at Rhode Island Comic Con, and any purchases made, like any Black Caravan box purchase coming up around the holidays, will have one in it. So those are the different ways to get one. And then we also have a special edition Bill Sienkiewicz cover, which that we're doing for Dark Caravan. So there's going to be a limited edition version of that, and we're going to do a chase variant of it that's a metal cover that glows in the dark. So if you order the Black Caravan box, you might get one of these metal covers. We're not going to sell it outright. The whole purpose is that it's like it's a blind giveaway. So,
Willie wants a star. I love it.
And then with that, we have Epic Tavern #1.
Cover by sent me an ash can of that, and very cool. I've never played the game that it's associated with, or had no idea what that was. Love the comic on its own though. was only afterwards that I realized that it was connected to something else. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you buy issue 1, actually, hold on, I'll grab a sample of it. This is the variant. So this is the special edition that we're going to be putting out that goes with that electric black special cover. So this is the Richard Pace variant. This is the Black Caravan exclusive.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there's instructions inside the front here. And if you play Epic Tavern, you can unlock the Black Ledger from the Electric Black in-game.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So it's just a little it's like a variant within a variant within a variant. Anyway.
Yeah.
So if you like the book and then you go and you play the game, there's a little mini quest line in here that unlocks a special object that's exclusive to Black Caravan as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
Right? And then every variant that comes out for Fantastical Crimes Unit has similar like objects and stuff that are exclusive to those variants.
Oh, that's
so that
really
was a
cool.
cool thing. And they are going to continue with more stories and stuff like that. This was just like dipping their toes in the water, trying out something new with us. Hyperkinetic Studios, they originally made Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation.
Okay,
and, so this is, and they've got some other stuff going on. I think they do something with the Oculus. They've got a couple of games. This is one you can download off of Steam.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, PC only, not Mac. If you've got a Mac, you're up. And then what else? Yeah, so the fourth printing, I don't have one in front of me, but I do have these like pins that were made up. These are coming out today. We've got We Don't Kill Spiders coming out today, which is so yeah, I said there was a couple of series ending this year. One of them is Gods of Brutality. The last issue of that will be coming out in December, I believe, or January. And Cherry Blackbird is ending this year too.
Yeah. So they're both 5, aren't they?
Yeah, Cherry Blackbird issue 5 is the last issue. And you have the graphic novel, right?
It's on the way still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's on the way still.
Basically, you could ruin it for yourself and just read the graphic novel. The graphic novel is a self-contained story.
Yeah.
So it was never intended to go beyond the 5 issues that are there.
Yeah.
Now, with that, there's the Infernal Pact is another book that I wrote and drew, and it ties right into it. Yeah. Now, there's crossover characters, but you can read one book without having to read the other.
The other, yeah. I think I bought Infernal Pact off your Etsy store.
Yeah, I think that sounds right as well.
Yeah.
I can't believe like the last box I sent you got there pretty fast, and now this one's still out there.
Yeah. It's like that at the moment. Like we had a period here for the first 3 weeks of lockdown. Couriers and Australia Post were basically told not to deliver to non-essential business. So I had a heap of stuff being bounced back, and I was freaking out that your package would get bounced back. And I happened to be at the shop when our courier came past, and he saw me on the side of the road, and he knew he wasn't supposed to, deliver to me, but because we have a pretty good relationship with Gary, he was like, "Oh man, yeah, I've got something for you.
Here, I got this for you.
Come here."
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But we're finding our freight from overseas is sort of seems to be getting like a little bit more delayed over time. Like our weekly comics delivery, like we don't have Wednesday as New Comic Book Day. Like for the last like maybe 2 years, it's been Thursday.
Okay.
We've basically been told by our freight forwarder to start expecting Friday morning to be like our delivery day. And it's just because there's not as many flights. The logistics around like international shipping are slowed down because of reduced capacity, but increased demand. So yeah, it's a real it's
well, moving forward
kind of arrangement.
Anytime you guys do a variant with us, my whole thing that I tell every store is the minute you get those in stock, you sell them. You don't have to wait on the street release date. Just put them out, you know?
Yeah.
So
So
10 out of 10 bathtubs, right? It's only IPAs in the shop.
10 out of 10.
But I was showing my wife all the memes and stuff that you sent me, and she's like, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, and she knows I hate IPAs. She got one the other day. We were in Baltimore, right? And she's like, "Oh, what do you have for IPAs?" And all I can think of was you going 10 out of 10 bathtubs. So,
my
but
birthday
today's
a few weeks ago, I got given like a couple of those, like mixed 6-packs. I don't know where people got it into their head I like craft beer, because I'm always bagging the shit out of that.
So somebody got
these, mixed 6-packs with like 6 different craft beers to try, and it's like I don't want to try any of them, let alone 6 of them. But then I got like probably 4 or 5 of these mixer 6-packs from various people. Why?
I know. I honestly, I just drink the worst like shitty beer on earth. It's like Coors Light or Mick Ultra, which I know is kind of the women around here are kind of rough. So when I get a Mick Ultra, they call it Chick Ultra. Which honestly, like really demeans me a little bit. But all right. But and before that, I used to drink nothing but PBR. So
that's Pabst Blue Ribbon, isn't it?
Yeah. Drank a lot of that in the early 2000s. That was like my beer of choice. So
in Australia, we've got a couple of beers that have just been around forever, and like they're kind of now considered like a bit old fashioned, and I tend to get those. But I lived in the UK for about 5 years. When I finished school, I did like the backpacking thing and traveled around Europe and became an alcoholic basically. But in the north of England, they drink a lot of cider as well as beer, but it's basically beer made with apples. It's not what you kind of imagine when you say apple cider. And so that's kind of the only other thing that like, it's not even that I enjoy it. It's just I have this nostalgia thing. But you could buy like a 4-litre bottle of this cider in the north of England called White Star. And we have an Australian equivalent. So you get this giant 4-litre bottle, and you can get 2 of them for about $8. And that is 2 people blind.
That's awesome. I went to Frankfurt, Germany, and they have apple wine taverns, which is a totally different thing altogether. And I'm sitting at this table with all these Germans, and I was like, I'll take one of those, one of those jugs, which was nothing. I think it was like €5 or something, and for this jug of like apple wine, which was delicious. And I start drinking it, and they're like, no, you want to cut that with water. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. I was wasted. I was just like, oh, and they were like, told you. You want to cut that. But
the beer I like to drink, I drink mainly because it's cheap and it tastes all right. And it's kind of like the equivalent of Coors. Like it doesn't have a super strong
Is this the one you sent me a link to? It was like
but it's called Tui's, and basically they've given up trying to be cool. And it's
they're like, it's just beer.
It's just beer.
I like that a lot. No, I can't find it local at all.
You see like their 80s ads, and it's like drovers droving sheep, and guys wrestling crocodiles, and guys working in coal mines, and big cinematic like pans across landscape and the outback. And now it's just like this is it, and it's beer. They sell it at pubs.
Well, I mean, if everybody knows what it is, why right?
But
at this point, we've earned our chops. So.
Ever since, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, they had the it's just beer campaign, and ever since then, it's like they don't even bother advertising. They're just like, where we are.
Well, I feel like certain companies go through these like peaks and valleys of like they're really pushing their product right now, and then you don't hear about them again for like a decade, because they're like, this is selling itself. We don't need to like jam this down people's throats anymore.
And it's the kind of beer that when you go to a pub or like a labor club or like a bowling club or so, I don't know, do you guys have like those sorts of clubs over there? Or when I say club, are you imagining a nightclub? So in Australia,
when I think of a club, I think of a nightclub. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we have like what we call like a workers club or a labor club. Often there'll be a bowling club or a football club, and it's basically a giant empty room with a bar and poker machines, and there'll be like, you know, they serve pretty cheap meals and good meals. Yeah,
I mean, around here,
pubs.
those would just be called pubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Tooheys is the kind of beer that when you go into a place like that and you say, just give me a beer, that's what they give you. And if you ask for something specific, you know, that you'll get whatever's specific. But if it's just like the house beer, so to speak, that's what you get. And it's in every pub and every club. Yeah.
Most bars and pubs and stuff like that, similar stuff. They've got stuff on draft, but then there's there was a great place in New York City though that was called Siberia, and literally you could only drink whatever they had that day. So if all they had was gin, all you could get was gin.
Nice.
And you're like, yeah, can I get tequila? And they're like, we've got gin. Like, all right, I guess that's what I'm drinking tonight. They were really cheap though, so you just didn't fuss about it.
Oh, that was one thing that amazed me. Like before the pandemic, we would often visit the States each year, and we'd try to line it up with one of the big cons, because that way I can write it off as a tax, like a tax expense. And and we try to travel a little bit around it, particularly before the kids had come along. And I was just blown away. Like the price of food and alcohol in the States is just amazingly cheap. It's brilliant. But then
we're a consumer nation, dude.
You take into account the tax and then tipping the servers and all that sort of stuff, and you go, oh, maybe it isn't that cheap. But yeah, I was just blown away.
It depends on where you are too. And really, we only have there's kind of a couple of regional different kinds of cuisines. Yeah. I think the best cuisine that we have in our country is either the Southwest with the heavy Mexican influence in our food.
Yep. Yeah.
And really, if you get Mexican food almost anywhere else in the country, it's kind of shit.
Yeah.
But if you go down to like San Diego, Los Angeles, parts of Arizona, and Texas, they have really good Mexican food. And then, of course, the Deep South has Cajun cuisine, which is very exclusive to the United States. And that stuff's amazing. It's really hard to find a bad meal in New Orleans. So next time you're in the States and you want to go eat something.
That's one place we've never been. Yeah. Joe actually has a cousin that lives just outside of San Diego. So we'd often line it up and we'd go to the con and then, chill in San Diego. And last time we did a bit of a zigzag. So we went sort of San Diego. We went to LA because we'd never been to Universal Studios. We'd been to Disneyland, but not Universal Studios. And then we zigzagged across to New York, and then we flew back to Vegas, and then we went back to New York and went to Washington.
Wow, you guys were all over our country, huh?
Yeah. And it depended on the bargain flights. So we kind of planned it like looking at what bargain flights were available. So yeah, we really did zigzag, but yeah, most of the time it was because we could get a flight for half price or something like that.
Vegas is a strange place for sure.
It's weird. I have to say that we're after about 3 days, we were pretty bored in Vegas because neither of us gamble, and we kind of saw the grandeur of it, and we kind of checked everything out. We went to all the different casinos to sort of just take in Vegas, and then on about the 3rd day, we kind of looked at each other and went, "It's actually like." Because we don't gamble, and we've been to a couple. Yeah,
that's really what it is. If you're not into gamble and you've seen the shows that you wanted to see, there's nothing else to really. They have good food and stuff like that, but it's all like it's weird having that kind of cuisine there because it's a fucking desert, right?
Yes.
None of that shit should be there at all, and it's all like, the history behind that whole city is just the mafia. Created it.
And it really is like, it's just so seedy as well, like in the sense that it's kind of like everything about Vegas is just celebrating excess, but celebrating it like to the excess. And
I mean, their motto for like a couple of years, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? They were like, come here and be a sleazebag. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But
when you're walking down the street and you've got those like ladies who are handing out the cards, and they're not like attractive ladies, they're like older ladies and stuff, and they'll hand you a card with like a couple of pictures of prostitutes on it, and like kind of give you the look like, call the number, you'll be all right. And like this lady like forced this card into my hand. I'm like, I'm with my wife, and she went, oh, really sorry, and she handed her a card too.
like, couples are welcome.
Yeah, that's cool. I think my highlight in Vegas though was we went to somewhere off the strip that we'd seen on that Man versus Food show, and I think it was like a 3 or 4 kilo burrito, and I ordered it because I'd seen it on Man versus Food, and the guy was quite a big fellow, and he was like, nah, he was like, I don't think you're going to be able to eat this. And my wife just like pissed herself laughing, and she was like, you'll fucking eat 2 of them.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, that's, took my photo, put it up on the wall. But yeah, the guy just, because at the time, like, I was just nothing as well. And he was like, where did you put it all?
Skinny people have, look at that guy Kobayashi, who always wins the hot dog eating contest. Yeah. He's a rail. Yeah, it's fat people that have a hard time packing it all in because we've got that layer on top. I'm not a very skinny guy myself, so I can tell you I get full pretty fast, but it doesn't seem to do anything to mitigate the layer.
I don't know. I think my stomach just continues to stretch, and I don't think it sends the message to my brain to stop eating.
3 kilogram burrito.
But yeah, walking out of it, I felt pretty rough walking out, but thinking to myself, you're a fucking champion, Brendon. You fucking did it.
I've never actually won like no, that's not true. I won a hot wing contest here in town, but that's the only like food challenge I can think of that I've ever won. They had this one that was up north from here. It was called the Fire of the Dead Burrito, and the guy like, I didn't realize what I was getting into, and it was literally one of these things where the guy was like, you must really like spicy stuff, and I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, okay. And I bit into it, like you would a normal burrito. You just take a mouthful bite, and the thing was nothing but ghost peppers, reapers, and chicken. That was it. That's all the ingredients in there. And I started like hallucinating. My head like felt like I was floating, and I started laughing. And he's like, oh, okay, you need milk, you need sour cream. And I'm like, it was a mess. And no, I did not finish it because
my wife,
it was inhuman.
Has a Chinese Malaysian background, and hot spice is a big part of their cuisine. And that was the test when I met her dad. Not for the first time, but it was the first time I got taken out to dinner with her parents. And he insisted on going to this like hot pot place. And you could get 2 hot pots. You could either get the regular hot pot or the one that you could only ask for in Mandarin. And he's gotten the really hot one. And that was kind of my test. And
he was like, let's see if you're a man.
Yeah. It was like partway through, he was like, how's the heat? And I was like, yeah, it's all right. And he's turned to my wife and gone, this one's all right. Like talking to me.
That's pretty awesome.
Because apparently she'd introduced them to an Asian guy. And when he gave him something that was like slightly spicy and he couldn't handle it, he was like, this guy's not.
He's no good. He's not right.
He's not right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I've got 2 daughters, right?
Yeah.
That might be a good test for the future. But
like, the hot pot was like, one side was like chicken broth, and it was quite nice. But the other side, the one that you could only ask for,
it was just all chilies and stuff.
It was basically pureed chili, like heated up like a soup, and it was really thick.
And would you was it like shabu shabu, where you put slices of things in it and just eat it?
Yeah, so you pop them in, and it's got a burner underneath. It cooks for a little bit, and then everyone gets a little bit of each round that goes in. Yeah, and then at the end you drink the soup as like the finisher. So that whatever's left at the end gets scooped into the bowls, and you drink that. And when I drank that, he was just like, yeah, that's all right.
That's the guy. That's the one.
Yeah. And he calls me he calls me an egg. So he's like
An egg?
An egg, because I'm white on the outside but yellow on the inside.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I play up something similar with the whole murder hobo comic on a regular basis, where they're not really helpful at all. They're just kind of the worst people. So.
Murder hobo is just hilarious. I absolutely love it.
I will say this: issues 3 and 4, the ones that are coming up real soon, they're the ones that are the most like, most murder hobo stories are very non sequitur. Like, you can take it doesn't matter what order you read them, really. But issues 3 and 4 of Chaotic Neutral, I basically, my partner on it that I started the comic book with was Jason Lynch. And he just simply doesn't have the bandwidth to work on the book, and he's got a lot of pretty strong opinions about how the book should be done, and at some point it just wasn't working anymore. So he's going to focus on more of the merchandising aspect of the property, and me and Ryan Brown are now the collaborators on it. So what you get with 3 and 4 is pretty much a very succinct story. You get your first like real storyline, Murder Hobo. And starting next year, we're going to attempt to make it our longest running comic, because one of the things I hear complaints about all the time is that you have a lot of number 1s, but nothing makes it past issue 5 or something like that. My reply to most people is, I would make issue 6, 7, 8, 9, but you won't buy it. So you complain that we put out number 1s, but number 1s actually generate money for us, where number 9s generate no money for us. So if people were actually coming to buy it, I would keep making it. In this particular scenario, me and Ryan are just really passionate about the book. And so we're fine if nobody comes to play. We'll just keep making it. So
well, that's one of the things I do with my shop. Like I really try to focus hard on, and I tell people all the time, like I don't sell things, I sell stories. And saying that, like, I do sell things too, because things are nice, you know, like variants are nice, number 1s are nice. But at the same time, you've probably noticed on my social media, I try to really hammer the story, like what it is about the story that you want to read, because I'd rather make customers that will stick around for a whole series. And even if it is only a 5-part series, I'd rather them read 5 parts and get a full story and really enjoy that and want to pick up another story, as opposed to a lot of people who buy a heap of number 1s, and then the next time I see them, they're buying more number 1s, and you know, they're never getting a full story. And it's 2 different markets, but I really try to like focus on the reader market, because and that's what I love. Like I'm a reader. Like I'll give you a bit of a pan around. Like I do have my collection, but you know, there's just my room here just looks like my shop. It's just piles of comics, and I just love reading. And I read them 3 or 4 times, and then I put them on a pile, and sometimes I read them again off that pile. When the piles fall over, that's when my wife makes me put them in a box and put them in the
piles fall over.
But then I have the ones that I love, and they get bagged and boarded and you know, put into a box and somewhat sorted. But I'd say probably 70% of the comics that I'm buying or bringing home from work, it's because I want to read the absolute shit out of them. And I want my customers to do that too. Like I want people to not just buy a shiny number 1. I want them to be there at the end. So when they come into the shop, I can talk about number 5 or I can talk about number 6. That's what I love. So, and it's hard. Like I completely understand where you're coming from, because it really is hard. Like
I mean, the numbers just don't lie at the end of the day. Now that I'm in the publishing world, not just a creator working on something, and I can see the numbers as they break down over issues. That nobody cares about it. Like you always lose viewership on issue 2. 100% you will lose like about 20 to 30% of the people. And then with subsequent issues, it goes down and down and down. And I've never seen it bump back up unless you're a Marvel or DC or something like that, where you can create an event that happens with it, where you're like, oh, and this is where there's a new character for Venom, you know.
But even that is, it's an artificial spike, and often like say a number 5 or like a number 25 or a number 32 sort of special event, first appearance, coming out of a character, whatever it is, you'll get this giant spike, but then your following issue you'll actually lose a heap of readership. So
yeah, because everybody knows that it's no longer the first appearance of Punchline or something, right?
Yeah. So you could have had a consistent sort of sales of, say, let's just say 10,000 copies, whereas you sold 50,000 of number 1. You then end up with consistent sales of about 10,000 copies. You have the event or first appearance, it might spike up to 20,000. But then when people come back for that following issue, it's dropped down to a constant sale of 7,000 to 8,000. So that spike is, I think, can be very sort of short term, very like limited vision from some of the big publishers when they do that sort of stuff.
Honestly, I get concerned sometimes whether or not people are just like flipping these things for artificial value, or if they're really fans and they're reading it. Yeah. So I'm hoping people are reading it.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing my best to cultivate long-time fans.
Yeah. But I mean, I used to be a pretty avid collector as well. So the books that we make and the editions we put out and stuff like that are based on things that I always wanted to do and things I want to see. Yeah. So that's sort of how we run the ship at Black Caravan, at least. Yeah. And we are sort of like autonomous from Scout. They're our umbrella company. They handle printing and distribution, but ultimately it comes down to me and Rich putting together all the books, putting them out into the world. And a large portion, I think, of what makes our books particularly successful are the ones that we started with, which were always with our names attached to it. So but yeah, it's a pretty curated and small line. We do not, we're already booked for all of 2022, and we're starting to book up for 2023.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, yeah, we don't want to have like 100 titles. We want like 12, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
well, I think sales wise, as a sort of smaller publisher or a smaller to mid-sized publisher, you're better off having a smaller line of quantity. And this is where the big guys are constantly just frustrating comic book shop owners, is they go for quantity over quality every time. You're constantly losing readers. You're constantly having non-returns. Like, people will really get into a series over like maybe 1 or 2 issues, and then they don't come back because there's just not enough to bring them back. And they're kind of presented in a way where you can kind of jump in and out. And it's better to have, I think anyway, for a publisher, it's better to have a line of 12 books where every book is the best book you can produce than our Marvel shelf each week. I look at our Marvel shelf and a quarter of it is good quality stuff. The rest is shelf filler. And I know that's a genuine sales tactic as well. Let's fill the shelf and then try and push the other publishers off the shelf.
Oh, sure. And they've got
like that.
They've got Disney money behind them too. So it's like Big Daddy Disney is footing the bill. They don't care what they're putting out. And honestly, I think the content of a lot of the big publishers stuff, the stories themselves kind of suck now. As a fan, I can say that confidently, being like, I used to love reading X-Men, and I used to love reading Ghost Rider and stuff like that. I pick up those books now and I'm like, you have to buy like 20 issues because all of them like feed into each other, and they got like, I don't even know what the current run of X-Men looks like anymore,
Even when you're buying like New Mutants, Marauders, Trial of Magneto, like there's at least 8 monthly books in the line at the moment. Even when you're buying all of those, they still make you feel like you're not getting the full story, and it's because you're not. And what's really frustrating, I think, too, is a lot of the like really hot shit writers at the moment don't know how to write endings. They don't know how to tie off arcs. So what they do is they write endings that aren't endings. And even if they're handing over the book to a new team, you're still never getting a full closure on an arc. And so many readers burn out on that because it happens so many times, and they're waiting for this big closure that kind of keeps being alluded to, keeps being
and it never gets delivered.
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
instead of writing endings now, they actually just write segues to the next event or the next tie-in.
And that used to be like a thing, right? They'd have like a big event set up, and you would get jazzed up for it. And it would be like once every other year or once every 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But now it's just like it's always one event leading into the next, and it's just it's exhausting. And frankly, it's just kind of punishing. So
it certainly is.
But yeah. But what else we got going on? So over here, all I'm working on today is We Don't Kill Spiders, which by the way, it was scheduled to be a 3-issue series. It's not. It's like a 5-issue series at this point. If I don't want it to keep going, I might keep it going. Next year, I'm making a new book, because I'm constantly making new content. But this one's like a lot different than some of the other stuff I've done. So it's called Sex Laser.
Okay, cool.
I'll be putting that out. It's like it's kind of like Barbarella, and with a anamorphic female genetically engineered character.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Like so just something different. Trying to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Not my typical horror stuff or anything like that, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying We Don't Kill Spiders, and it's been a bit of a slow burn. Like I sold a lot of copies when number 1 first came out, and I've had to restock a few times. But the more I kind of talk about it, and the more customers pick that one up, they talk to each other and they sort of say, "Oh, have you tried We Don't Kill Spiders? You know, Brendon recommended it, and it's really great." So although the sales at first we had like a bit of a spike and then it sort of dropped off, particularly now that number 2 is coming off. Like today I sold like 7 copies of it just because number 2 is due this week, and I've done a bit of promotion for it.
Did you guys get the second printing of it, or?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I like the color on the second printing actually.
It looks very cool. Like the kind of the yellow is really, really striking. Yeah. It's very cool. Yeah.
But issue 2 is not slow at all. It's got everything in it. We've got undead warriors, werewolves. You know, she goes into like full necromantic god mode. Lots of action in issue 2 before we build up to issue 3, where I can tell you that you will probably know who the killer is by the end of issue 3.
Cool.
And then issue 4, I've done these little reflections on Revna for issues 1 and 2, where you see parts of her past. Issue 3, you're going to learn more about Bjorn and why he is the way he is. And issue 4 focuses on our yet to be named killer. So
very cool.
Yeah, and then issue 5 should wrap up this first storyline. So it is the top selling direct market book that we've ever produced through Black Caravan or Scout, and Black Caravan numbers are always higher than Scout numbers. So because when I made this thing, I didn't know if people would be into it at all. I was just doing it. But now that I see that there's real fan base behind it and stuff like that, I did have the intention of being able to revisit it should there be interest. So after the first initial 5 issues, there is more story to come. So I'm going to take a little break to do this next project that I have on the horizon, but I will be coming back to it. Well, and there is going to be more stuff in that world as that the Infernal Pact and Cherry Blackbird take place in, because the intention for that was to have 7 different graphic novels. So I have 2 of them done. So I got a couple more to do.
Yeah, excellent. It is very different to your other stuff, and it's brilliant. And the fact that it's a Norse detective story, that alone sells it.
Yeah, it went through a weird evolution. It took me about a year and a half to really figure out what I was doing with it. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to do this story about this necromantic witch that's helping a detective, but it was originally placed in modern day. Yeah. So I had some early concepts of it where they look just like anybody else. And then I was like, that's so, I don't know. It just didn't, it wasn't moving me. And I got really into, Conan the Barbarian and stuff like that when I was a kid. Yeah. And I always kind of wanted to do something with high fantasy that's more of like that era, Yeah. But also I didn't want it to be totally fictionalized. I like having a real place and real time to set things. So I can do like a deeper dive. If I need to do research, I can do a little bit. It helps with the inspiration when you're writing. Yeah. So I chose Vikings because they have a particularly bloody and brutal past, and a lot of that play. I have some particular feelings towards organized religion and stuff like that like comes out in the books where things get questioned, and you see the awfulness that people do under the name of their worshiping beliefs and stuff like that. So it's not like the deepest, most philosophical thing on the planet, but it's pretty near and dear to me. And I write the whole thing myself. I draw everything myself. So it's a passion project that seems to be popular. So that's good too.
Well, that's the first issue has definitely gotten me sucked in. I know it's got a lot of people sucked in because you've got the intrigue of the mystery, you've got the excellent Norse setting, but then you've got, I don't know, it's almost like the hard-hitting feel of like a true crime sort of story that's happening at the same time, which is really, really cool.
I'm absolutely fascinated with what motivates a serial killer, right? And so when I was writing this and creating it and whatnot, I been doing a deeper dive on some of the really popular ones, but I've also like found some serial killers that are not your mainstream. There was a woman actually that I was reading about that was pretty fascinating, where you're going to find out there's probably little pieces of her that make it into this story from Australia that like skinned her husband and hung him up and tried to feed him to his kids. Do you know who I'm talking about?
They're from Western Australia, right? She's
from Western Australia. Yeah, she was like a butcher. Yeah, and she got imprisoned. She got imprisoned with the whole never to be released. Yeah, was
I think serial killers don't seem to be like as common in Australia. I think just purely because of population size. But some of the ones we've had are real nasty pieces of work.
Yep, there she is, Catherine Knight.
Knight, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
lovely piece of work. Lovely piece of work.
Her story is fascinating. She like left her kid on train tracks and like attacked people randomly in the streets with an axe. Like how this woman wasn't fucking locked up earlier. You're just kind of questioning everything. But and then I did watch the Snowtown murders, which I thought was pretty fascinating stuff as well.
Yeah. And that was something in Australia that it took, like, that was sort of unsolved or like hypotheticals for so long. Like what exactly happened in Snowtown was like a really long running mystery. It was it was something that sort of sits in a lot of people of a certain generation in Australia when it was all over the news, and it was really like embedded in our psyche. It was quite disturbing, and I can remember it from when I was a kid. Like I think it was just before I kind of became a teenager. I remember seeing stuff about the investigation and the bodies in the barrels and stuff on TV, and it was really terrifying. That this
Yeah,
thing
yeah, man.
happened. Yeah.
I grew up the serial killers that were around when I was a kid. I lived in Florida at the time when Eileen Wuornos was running around killing people.
Yeah.
And then Jeffrey Dahmer, you know.
Mm.
I remember when that was all going down and people were just like shit. But like honestly, there was this period of time in the late 70s, early 80s where Los Angeles was like, there was like 20 different active serial killers running around at all times. You had like the Night Stalker and the Sunset Strip killers and the Hillside Stranglers and Ted Bundy, and like all these people were on the West Coast just like doing crazy shit. And so yeah, I wonder what the hell happened. What was in the water at that time?
Yeah, it's strange.
But no country is untouched, mind you. Like Canada,
No.
which is like full of the nicest people on earth.
Yeah.
There's this guy Willie Pickerton who was killing prostitutes for like a decade. He killed like about 40, I think it was 49 women, and fed them to his pigs. And then whatever the pigs wouldn't eat, he would send them to processing plants to get made into makeup. So like all these Canadian women were like wearing dead hooker on their face. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, so I find that stuff fascinating. A lot of that makes its way into the process of how I write We Don't Kill Spiders, because truth is a lot, crazier than fiction at times.
It certainly is. And you've I've got here. You've read Eric Powell's new one.
I love it. I thought it was a great story.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff in there I already knew,
Yeah.
My roots come from the Midwest. I was born in Minnesota, which is a state right next to there. And so my grandmother is from Michigan. And so Ed Gein was known. And then, of course they based Buffalo Bill and Leatherface and Norman Bates. They're all based on this guy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware of his general upbringing. And I didn't know that he had probably murdered his brother. That was an interesting side note. And then the whole Herzog thing where they were going to dig up Ed Gein's mom's grave to see if she was actually in there.
Yeah.
I had never heard about that. And then I did a little research, and sure enough, Herzog and this other guy were like going to, run off and do this. And apparently there's they have the footage. They've just never released it. And it's the Ed Gein tapes. They did a big interview with him. So be interested to see that when it comes out.
The thing I found kind of sort of the freakiest about the Ed Gein story was the amount of times where he basically told people what he'd done. And because he was kind of like the town simpleton with the psychotic mother, people just went, oh yeah, okay, yeah. And
that's Eddie Gein. Doing Eddie Gein stuff, just being a weirdo.
Yeah,
lampshades made out of. I mean, it does seem like he wasn't like some brilliant mastermind. He was grave robbing. For the most part. They only convicted him of murdering 2 people because I think that's all he murdered. That's too many.
Yeah.
But it was what he was doing with the dead bodies and stuff that's pretty gross. He was making like soup bowls out of people's skulls and shit like that.
Upholstering chairs and
with human flesh. Yeah, because he was obsessed with those magazines and stuff that were coming out of about Polynesian tribes and stuff like that, and them being cannibals and stuff like So I think he was digging up freshly dead bodies and trying them out, seeing if they were tasty. Just pretty funky. But,
so with Halloween coming up, is there something that you do for Halloween, or that you do?
All of September into October, me and my kids and my wife. So me and my wife were married on Halloween, so our anniversary is coming up on Sunday.
Oh, happy anniversary!
Yep. we've been married for 11, we'll be married for 11 years, but we've been together for 20 some odd years, like almost half my life. Yeah, we binge watch horror movies. We decorate the house in September, which really pisses my neighbors off because I don't think they're really into Halloween as much as we are. I've lived here for 11 years, you know, same amount of time that I've been married. I don't know any of my neighbors' names.
Okay.
But yeah, so we decorate the house, we binge watch horror movies. You know, I try not to schedule any shows for this upcoming weekend or any time around directly around Halloween, because I want to spend it with the kids and stuff like that. We were going to my folks' house to do trick-or-treating. Cool. And yeah, and I drink a lot of Pumpkinhead ale on Halloween. I only hit it like once a year because it gives me some gastrointestinal problems. And then yeah, but that's the tradition is. And what I'll do today is when we get off here, I'll be drawing, and then I'll be popping on a horror movie of some sort in the background. And not that that's any really that different than any other time of the year, but most of the time I'll put on like something that's very familiar in the background. South Park regularly just plays in the background while I'm inking things, because I don't have to look up. I know what the jokes are at this point. But yeah, we've been watching Squid Game, the Korean show. That's been awesome. And then,
it's fantastic and great ending too.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
I'm not going to. No, like a lot of the time, you know, with modern like TV series, you know, they're fantastic, and you can tell that someone went into a production company or a producer, got a great pitch, had a whole bunch of imagery and cool stuff that was going to kind of make up the story, and nobody thought about how it was going to end until they were filming the fucking thing. Squid Game's got a great ending, which is fantastic, and it's refreshing.
I'll be because you're into good endings and stuff like that. I'll be curious to see what you think about the ending of Cherry Blackbird, because it does end. And
I love Cherry Blackbird. I love it. Every page I turn, it just gets crazier. It gets more full on. I absolutely love it. When she picked up the nail gun in issue 2, I just, I didn't know whether to be shocked. I definitely cracked up.
The great part about that particular book is that part of the book where she's torturing the guy. Those were the first pages I drew of it. I had to go back and redraw the whole opening. So the artwork's really weird in that at the time I was an engineer at ABC. And so, you know, had this day job that was sucking up a lot of my time. So I was only able to produce like maybe 2 pages of that book a week. So it took quite a while to put it together. I think from start to finish, it was like a 4-year project to finish it. Now I do something the equivalent of that, you know, twice a year, maybe. But yeah, I've only been at this like full time for I think this is year 3. I'm approaching year 3 of being a full-time creator. So up until then, I had every kind of shitty job you can think of on the planet. So.
I too have an extensive collection of name tags,
and hairnets
and aprons.
I've paid my dues 100%. I've earned my way here, and that's one of the things you know, if you're a creator and you want to do comic books, the main thing to remember is if you're going to be a writer and an artist, which I think is just typically called a cartoonist or something, which I think is kind of I don't think that really sums it up. But if you're going to be that way, you do have to have something to say. And it took me till I was like 30 to get to that point. Some people are just brilliant writers when they're in their 20s. I wasn't. And I had to live my life to get to this point where I had an interesting voice in writing. art you can do a lot faster, younger. But if you're going to do both, you need to have a particular voice. Same thing with Rich. I think me and him were both on the same track for years. He's a little bit older than me, but he's been at it a little bit longer too. He knew he wanted to be in comics well before I did.
Yeah.
And so, his early projects and stuff, he was still trying to find his voice. And now we have what is Rich Woodall's work today. When you look at things like Gods of Brutality, that's all his writing.
Yeah.
So
that's another fantastic book. That's just brilliant. Like, again, an excellent mix of like the shocking and the horrific.
Yeah. He really likes to write a crazy story for sure.
Yeah. Like
next year he'll be putting out Sergeant Werewolf is his next project, which is pretty cool. He's going to re-release the initial story that he put out, and then he's going to build new content to go with it as well. So both of us are still going on to make new stuff.
I do. I love horror stuff that does have that kind of black sense of humor to it as well. And then you get the ebb and flow of being kind of on the edge of the seat, and then you relax a second, and then bang, something else, hits you. And and I love the banter in Gods of Brutality between Thor and
Hercules. Yeah, they're assholes
morons
to each other.
They're absolute morons. It's excellent.
So that book, the first storyline for that finishes in either December or January. I know they're a little bit behind on that. And then next year we've got Playthings, which is, if you read Black Friday, that book that we put out, 3-issue book, they've got a new series coming out called Playthings, which is sort of like a Puppet Master type story.
Cool.
We've got Vanity coming up, which is like an autobiographical about Elizabeth Bathory. And it's a deep dive. It's like a 300 plus page story that we're telling in 3 chapters. Each chapter has 3 issues.
Wow, that sounds cool.
So that's going to be a pretty epic rollout. The writer Yuri, the book's done. It's completely illustrated and colored. It looks like something you'd find in an old Bible, like the illustrations in it. It's really interesting. Which we like. We don't like the, if you want like a well-drawn superhero comic, you can go to Marvel or DC. At Black Caravan, we like to try different stuff. We've got the Ballad of Gordon Barleycorn, which is like a tripadelic folk singer that travels through space. It
sounds
just
very cool.
It kind of reminds me of R. Crumb, and I just really like the aesthetic of it. And then we've also got a book coming up next year that looks amazing. It's an anthology series called Pentagram of Horror, and each issue is a standalone story. The artwork in it is fantastic, and that will be coming out around October. We are now in talks with a heavy metal band that we're going to be putting out their new title, which will coincide with a vinyl release as well. So I'll have information on that as soon as the ink is dry on the contracts, which are in negotiations now. And then trying to think of some of the, I know I'm going to miss 1 or 2 things. Rad Wraith.
That's coming up soon, isn't it? Yeah.
So we might only get 2 issues of that next year. He's working as fast as he can because he just signed, or he's about to sign, a very big deal with Marvel. And I can't tell you what the project is, but he's going to go off and work for them for a little bit. So he's trying to finish up Rad Wraith so that can come out on time next year. If it doesn't, we're giving him he has a green light to put out his books whenever he wants with us. So I know he's not going anywhere, but they might be spaced out pretty far apart. But Rad Wraith is a really cool book. It's written by Tristan Gallagher, who is a local comic book shop owner here in Maine.
Very cool.
And then we will be continuing with the next story arc for Phantom Star Killer, which is called Vice Admiral Acker. That'll be coming out next year. And then, like I said, which is
Phantom Star Killer's become a bit of a juggernaut, I have to say. It's just Yeah.
Well, and we got the toys coming out. We're doing a Kickstarter for it'll be Julius Black and Phantom Starkiller. The important thing for people to know is it launches Black Friday this year. There's 2 figures, but there's 2 exclusive Kickstarter colorways, and the exclusive Kickstarter colorways glow in the dark. Ooh. So the only way to get those is to back the Kickstarter. You can buy as many of them as you want. But it has to be done through the campaign.
Cool. And when you say Black Friday, you're talking about
the actual
day after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
That's
what it'll launch at like 10 a.m. Actually, me and Peter are flying down to Fort Myers on mid-November to meet with James Hake, the president at Scout, so we can finalize all the details for the Kickstarter campaign, and then we'll be launching that, because I've been watching other toy campaigns and stuff. I think it's going to do really well. And that will feed into our more toys coming out from the line as well. We have Lena from the Mall, Lillian from White Ash, Gut Ghost from Gut Ghost, and then Metal Shark Bro. Those will all be figures that are part of the same line, but they will be released in separate waves, because one of the problems that we're sort of running into is storage. You know, you get a couple thousand figures. Where do you put these things? So that's all the logistics we got to figure out on our end. And then we're continuing to make miniatures like we did for the Murder Hobo. We're making miniatures for We Don't Kill Spiders. And
excellent.
So those will be coming out at the end of the year, and those won't be part of a Kickstarter. You'll just be able to buy them like you can with the Murder Hobo minis. So
very cool. The prototype figures that I've seen you guys share for Julius Black look fantastic.
I've got him right here. He's and I have a prototype for Roddy the Rotten as well.
Oh, nice.
I'll go ahead and show those to you. So this is the 5.5 Roddy the Rotten from Murder Hobo. And he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 5 points of articulation. He'll have a gigantic backpack loaded with goodies and stuff that you can put on him. But this is a prototype sculpt of him. And then this is the Julius Black prototype.
Oh, so cool.
So he'll come with the Black Ledger.
Yeah.
And then he's got 5 points of articulation. He has full 90-degree swivel action on his legs.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, and so his color variant will glow pink.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, with Julius Black's design? I'm a big Iggy Pop fan. Julius and Iggy, like,
they look similar to you.
Kind of looks similar. Yeah. Is there a bit of Iggy in Julius Black? Oh, and that's the thing is though, Iggy now probably looks a hell of a lot younger than Julius Black looks. So we're talking Iggy like 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. So if you look at him, he's wearing, this pretty basic suit, right?
Yeah.
The original character that was supposed to run the Electric Black was the Black Hen from Cherry Blackbird. The Electric Black was supposed to be my third story in that storyline.
Yeah.
But so what happened was I had put Cherry Blackbird out. No publishers would touch it. Like the graphic novel's been out for 4 years.
Yeah.
But people were like, the artwork's good, the story's cool, we're not going to publish it.
Yeah.
It's too adult, right? Like, people were afraid of it. So I was like, all right. They're like, but Scout, the president at Scout, James Hake, was like, if you make something that's more all ages, we'll pick it up. I'll make it happen. So, and Rich wanted to work with me on something at the time. Rich was sort of my sounding board for everything, and we really wanted to work on a project together. So this was the next thing that was in my roster, was to make the Electric Black, and it was supposed to take place right after Cherry Blackbird. You'll see on the last page, the Black Hen makes a comment about going off and doing something, and so it was going to start there. And the Electric Black was going to be he has like a pocket dimension that he loses during the Infernal Pact, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, so we initially were writing out the story with the Black Hen running the Electric Black, and but as time went on, I realized like we really wanted, to share this property, and I already owned the Black Hen. That was my character. So we decided to redesign him. And at one point, actually, Julius was still the Black Hen. Like, he was going to have a shadow that was like a goat head and stuff. But Rich he had this friend that was a cosplayer that always dressed up like Satan or something like that. And he was like, this guy's face is what we should use. So he drew that. And then he had kind of like a cropped haircut with like the John Lennon glasses. And then I gave him the greasier hair and pointed ears. And that became what is Julius Black. So it's just a collaboration of both of the things that we had brought to the table. And then he designed Roy, the giant monster guy, and he designed Jack, which we based on Brother Theodore, the stand-up comic. And then I designed Junebug, and Erebus, Hazel, which is the teddy bear thing, and the Yellow Stranger.
I like Erebus has got like a bit of a Papa, is it leg bar kind of?
I based him on Solomon Kane.
Oh, cool.
He's got like a voodoo feel to him. So anybody that hasn't read Electric Black Presents #2, pick it up. It's the whole origin story of Erebus, and that issue in particular plays heavy into our next series, Electric Black, The Children of Cain, because in issue 2 you find out that Lilith, in Electric Black Presents #2, you find out that Lilith and the biblical Cain make Erebus. That's like, it's an offspring of a jinn and a human. And that's what he is. He's like a child of these two worlds coming together. So when I was he actually first appears in Electric Black issue 2. He's the guy that Junebug brings the Ankh to, that he like creates this zombie virus that wipes out this whole planet. You find out later he's trying to find pieces of Lilith. He wants to bring his mother back. So without too many spoilers, that gets explained in issue 0 of Free Comic Book Day, Electric Black, Children of Cain. So you'll want to check it out again. But yeah, figures coming soon. We figure that this is a new thing we're working on with this factory in China. So we think from the time that we get funding till it ends up in people's hands could be a half a year to a year. So we're allowing, like, we're going to be like, a year from now you should have these carded and on your doorstep, and all Kickstarter backers will get them first before they go to the direct market. And again, the limited edition glow in the dark variants, the only way to get them is going to be through the Kickstarter. So and we're not putting limits on things. Like there is some limited edition stuff where one of the bigger things we're going to do is Peter will make you a custom figure like this that he'll cast himself and paint by hand, and then I will produce the card art from scratch that will go on the back of it. So you'll have an original drawn piece of card art with an original hand painted figure. Those are going to be super limited. I think we're only doing like 20 of them, 10 for Julius and 10 for Phantom Starkiller. And
that's very cool.
Those are going to be pretty expensive, but with them you're going to get all 4 figures, and we're doing limited edition comic books that go with them too, that have the because they'll have like card art, new card art that goes on it, and those limited edition comics will come with the card art as the cover.
Oh, that's very cool.
So we've got a lot of stuff planned, and we're going to do something probably with limited edition coins as well. For the first 48-hour backers and stuff like that. So we really want it to like be this successful project. I hate doing Kickstarters. I hate crowdsourcing crap, but there is a market for it. It's really a way that we can afford to make these things, because making them by hand would take forever. And
and particularly with the way things are in the crazy world at the moment, I know the lead-in times on things like figures and basically anything made out of paper or plastic at the moment, it's a lot of money to have tied up in something, if it's money that you don't have right there on hand for such a long amount of time.
Me and Peter are doing okay, but we're just not that liquid, like we're doing okay enough that I can put out a free comic book to give to all the shops this holiday season, but not to make a full run of action figures. But so again, November 20 something. We'll be posting about it leading up to it, starting I think next month. Right away we'll be talking about the Kickstarter coming up.
Very cool. I usually, when I do one of these video things, I've got five quick fire questions for you, Joseph.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you know what a kebab is?
A kebab?
Do you call it kebab or shawarma? Or shawarma?
I would say that the shawarma is probably better.
Okay, so shawarma, chicken, beef, or lamb?
Lamb.
Correct. Dogs or cats? Are you a dog or a cat person? Sorry?
I like cats.
Correct. Shoes with zippers, yay or nay?
Foods with zippers?
Shoes with zippers.
Nay.
No, for a bonus point, socks with sandals.
No.
Correct. Very correct. Okay. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Correct.
My daughters do that one to me all the time, and I just look at them.
And what's the secret ingredient in all craft beer?
Bathtub water?
Correct. But we would have also accepted pretentiousness, yak sweat, and shedded beard hair.
I was going to say, did you hear about the Rogue Ale where they did the yeast from the brewer's beard? I was like, that is fucking nasty. And you all deserve whatever you're drinking. Beard yeast. Hipster beer.
Excellent. Well, I've tallied up your score, and you scored 11-8. That's our top score for the tonight.
Well, thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. No worries. Thanks for coming on. Thanks. I know it's super early in the morning for you. But thanks for doing this with me. Of course. It's a bit of a something different for Halloween, and I figured, for the spooky time of the year, let's talk to a guy who makes awesome spooky comics, and not just makes awesome spooky comics, publishes a whole bunch of cool, awesome spooky comics. But I really appreciate it. Thanks for talking to us, and thanks for talking to all of the degenerates and friends of D's.
Yeah, man. It's always good talking to you, dude. And I'm sure we'll be speaking online tomorrow or something. So get your rest. It's got to be over. What is it? 1 o'clock in the morning there now?
Yeah, about 20 to 1, so it's getting on. Yeah.
Yeah. I 100% fall asleep at like 8 o'clock at night, and then I wake up at 4 in the morning. But my kids, they have to be managed, and like my daughter, she gets on the bus. It's like pitch black out when she gets on the bus out here.
Yeah.
She's like, "This is inhuman." I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty bad." So.
Well, sometimes I've wondered about that. When you've messaged me, I'm like, it's got to be like 4 or 5 in the morning over there.
Yeah, we wake up really early in my house.
Yeah.
So early to bed, early to rise.
Yeah. I do a lot of work for the shop in the evenings. So yeah, I once the kids are in bed, because I don't like to sacrifice any of the sort of family time to be working. So when the shop shuts, like that's me clocked off, spend it with the kids, 100%, focused on them and the family. And then once they go to bed, that's when I crack a beer and I get some work done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always up at sort of 2 in the morning when I'm messaging you.
Yeah, I think if I didn't have to put them on the bus and get them ready and stuff like that, I'd be in the same boat. But my wife has to start work at like the butt crack of dawn too. So I'm just like, we're doing what we got to do, I guess. But one day,
I often get up at the crack of dawn as well. So I'm burning the candle at both.
At both ends. Just planning on going into the grave early, huh?
That's right. That's how I want to go.
All right, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Enjoy the spooky season.